We've got a bunch of people on today. Wow. Lots going on.
Does that work, Troopty?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think our Zoom settings should be that most people who need to share are going to be able to share. So thank you guys very much. We're going to start this meeting. We've got 17 people on. We've got a couple of maybe late items as well on the agenda. So kind of hot off the press. So we may be moving the agenda around just a little bit to give time, maybe take, I have 50 minutes for, you know, the planning initiative and Main Street petition. We may be shortening that up a little bit to make sure that other kind of timely things are covered. Anybody else with additional items on the agenda that we need to be considering before we get started? Can I get an approval for the agenda? We've got a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And unless there's any concerns from anybody, now would be the time to speak up on the agenda. If not, we're going to move forward and approve it. All right, seeing none, we're going to approve the agenda. Like I said, we will be making some on-the-fly changes to accommodate some folks who are on here. And we're not going to worry about the minutes and approving them because these are all videos that we're posting on YouTube. So, you know, if you watch the video, you're going to be fine. We are not taking recording minutes separately right now because we do have all those on our YouTube channel. So we've got a lot of folks on. So wanted to find out from folks, you know, for the public comment period, if anybody wants to raise their hand, if they're here for anything specific that's not on the agenda. Anthony, I've got you covered. We'll cover that after. Yeah, we'll cover that after anybody else because that one will require a few minutes. I don't see any hands up. All right, so we're good there. Okay.
Getting a lot of
Okay,
feedback
I'm sorry.
I don't know who's in the background with all the clanging, but it's hard to
Yeah,
hear.
if you don't mind muting, that'd be great.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Well, thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We've got 18 people on. You know, that's a great turnout for us, and hopefully we can keep going. We've got a late entry here, and Anthony Caselli, who purchased Phillips Automotive, that property, he is going to be going for a Board of Adjustment variance on parking. And Anthony, I think I did load your document. So Rod, let me see if I can, no, I can't share. Rod, if you go to our SUNI public drive. Yep, and go into land use. And look up 4358 SUNI. It's right there. And open that up, and that's the document. I don't have the actual application from Board of Adjustments. When I get that, I'll post it in here. But this has a hearing coming up just a few days after our next board meeting. And if we need to do any kind of outreach, we're going to need to use the time between now and the next board meeting to do it. So Anthony, if you're comfortable, you know, you can go right through this and tell us kind of what you're looking for. And then I'll jump in with anything for, you know, that we need to cover if that you haven't.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Trupti. Yeah, so we bought this property, you know, a little while back now from Dan Santangelo, a longtime resident and obviously a longtime tenant of this space, and owner of this land. You know, ran a wonderful small auto body shop here, and got to know Dan over the years, and ultimately purchased the corner of 44th and SUNI from him. You know, we're very attached to these two old buildings, and think they're going to make for an incredible adaptive reuse project. We are looking to the city to get approval for an additional building on the corner, which would be a 1-story plus a basement retail building.
Hey, Rod, can you scroll up?
Yeah, if you scroll down.
Yeah, just tell me when you want me to
Yeah, keep going down. Let's get to a rendering. Probably almost at the very end would probably be the best picture.
Okay.
So people can just see the whole project. That one right
Like
there.
those two. Yeah.
Yeah. So go up one more, I think. Just
There you
I
go.
think it's perfect. So you can see just a retail frontage on 44th. I would have another entrance on Zuni, and I think a very small sign. You know, we don't have exactly what we want to do with this space quite yet, but the plan would be to put a tenant in the basement, like a gym or something. Right now we have a gym operating out of the garage space that's existing called FitSoul. They've become pretty busy, and this would be a little bit larger space in the basement where they could, you know, service their clients. That's my initial thought on that, but obviously, you know, uses change. But in general, the addition of the basement requires parking. This is a small lot. It is a 6,250, so it qualifies for a small lot exemption for parking on the ground floor. However, the city has told us that by adding a basement, even if it was like a storage for the restaurant above, that it would require some parking on the lot, and that the parking would have to be off the alley. And so by default, they're telling us that we have to demolish the building on on the alley, the garage. So we don't want to do that. We are, you know, very attached to these buildings. As I said at the jump, we think they're, you know, they have value. We think that they're beautiful old buildings. We think that the history of the Phillips 66 station in Sunnyside over 100 years now is compelling enough for me to keep. This is, you know, in general, by right, I could have, you know, gone to the city and built townhomes here. I don't want to do that. You know, I never wanted to do that. And so I, you know, was pretty surprised that we got so much pushback on this project and got denied.
Hey, Anthony, can you tell us, can you verify when you say denied, you were denied by Site Development Plan Department to move forward with site development, correct? Because they're saying you
Yeah.
need to go to BOA for a 4 parking exemption, basically. They're
Yeah,
telling you right
that's-
now, you need 4 spots.
That's right.
Okay.
And so now we're, you know, we've got a hearing coming up in about a little over a month, maybe 5 weeks. And, you know, I just wanted to share what was going on with this piece of dirt with you all. I've, you know, lived in Lowhigh and Sunnyside for close to the last 10 years. I recently moved down to Littleton with my small children, but still own a fair amount of property in Sunnyside, and, you know, care very much about the future of the development in Sunnyside, because I think that, you know, there's opportunities like this to save some great old buildings and bring, you know, and revitalize some of this area. I mean, I think that the 44th corridor, if done right, could easily be, you know, a very walkable and shoppable street, similar to Tennyson and 32nd and West Highlands over time. And I think that, you know, a project like this might help, you know, build something and, you know, pretty incredible on that street.
Anthony, thank you. That hearing for Board of Adjustments is December 12th. I've emailed.
I think it's the 13th.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right. I knew it was just a couple days after our next
Sure.
board land use meeting, which is on December 8th. And that was the reason I kind of asked Anthony if you could, you know, present this today so that we may take some time between now and then to come to a decision of whether we would support the exception that he's looking for. I have reached out to Board of Adjustment to get the whole application, then I'll put it into the same folder this is in. A few things that I want to note here for everybody's consideration. Number one, the total number of parking spots is 4 that he's required to have. Now, I have no idea and maybe Anthony, you do, about, what does that mean for a bike share program? And can you get down to 3, whatever those are, but it's 4. And if we think about the neighboring streets, 4 isn't a lot to absorb, considering the number of people who may visit here could be 20 at a time, right? So 24, is not a big deal. But the other part is we have a petition going on right now about saving our commercial spaces on this corridor. And this right here, I think, is something people would want. This, versus what he said, which is we could just build, townhomes like they are at the spot across from Monkey Barrel. And that's what people are fighting. So I think this is kind of the outcome people are looking for this kind of space. So just something for us to consider regarding, and I do believe we should be, and I indicated to Anthony when I talked to him earlier, that we would want to send this out to the neighborhood. He should probably go talk to some of the surrounding businesses and some of, some residences that potentially could be impacted, just as a way of garnering their support, and that we could actually do a survey for a larger neighborhood, kind of wide, for anybody who would see this as an amenity, something that they can walk to. So that's kind of where we are. I have no idea from BOA processes whether 3, 4 exceptions on parking is just a no-brainer. We don't know. We don't deal with these a lot. And I personally haven't listened to a lot of Board of Adjustment hearings specific to parking. I do know that the property that they developed with 6 condos in what used to be a single story house on my block, they did waive parking for that. So I don't know if waiving small amounts of parking is kind of just a no-brainer. I don't know that yet, but right now what's on the table for us is whether we as an organization and we as a neighborhood would support an exemption of 4 parking spaces so that he can build something like that, which is going to turn into 4 businesses.
3 businesses, I would.
Oh, 3, sorry.
I have a question, Trupti, and maybe anyone that knows the city, or Anthony maybe. So this property currently has curb cuts, I think, along that whole edge. By restoration of those street parking, can you gain those 4? Because I think actually on both sides of the street are currently curb cuts. I almost think you could restore 6 parking spots almost along the street.
That's
I don't know
intriguing.
the rule on that,
I don't either,
we
but
are,
yeah.
we're happy to, we are going to seal up those curb cuts. Obviously, we don't want cars pulling into the, curb.
Right.
Are you implying that there would be a credit for sealing a curb cut for parking?
That was my question. So I'm for an exemption of this parking for this to take hold here, for sure. But I'm just thinking there's restoration of street parking by sealing up those curb cuts. I wonder if that would count towards the allowance.
It's certainly a point to bring up that you are actually bringing back, like Matt said, you're right. That is an entire side of that. There's only I think only 1 car can park there right now because the rest of it's curb cut.
Yeah, we have a curb cut on SUNI and 2 on
Right.
44th that are very generously sized curb cuts at that.
Right. That's
I
a
don't know
great,
if you-
that's a great point, Matt.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
that
Matt.
is a really good point. And
That's
definitely,
free consulting. Yeah.
yeah, and definitely, Anthony, talk to your architect about this, because I think that's going to be part of the case that you're going to make there. So we don't, like I said, we added this to the agenda, so we don't have a lot of time. And I think we can have one more conversation about this and maybe do an actual final vote on our land use meeting on the 8th. But between now and then, I would like to be able to let more of the community know, and Anthony would love if you spoke with some of your nearby, residents and businesses, that whether they'd be supportive. And I think you getting their support in writing is only just going to help you. And then we can work on doing the same from our end. If I think that timing would work out for you.
Yeah, I'm happy to draft up something with some pictures and maybe get some signatures is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Again, yeah, we can very easily do it via our platform, but I think if you wanted to specifically talk to Sunny's, your resident across the street, which I think he's going to be totally supportive of, but a couple of the restaurants over there, I think that'll just go a long way with you doing your part to,
Sure.
check in on this kind of stuff. We've got a couple of comments. Great idea. We have a nearby resident, 100% support. Let's see, Jonathan, do you just want to ask whatever question it is instead of me reading this here?
No, I'm just saying that I'm fully supportive of the businesses at Alcott and 44th. So El Jefe and Bacon, they have 0 parking spots and they'll draw 50 people, 60 people on a busy afternoon. So I think we should absolutely support this project and support him not having to knock down a building. I think it's a great drawing. It's a great idea. I love it.
Excellent. Does anybody have a counterpoint of view? I mean, if we've got 17, 19 people, I know some people are city people, they're not really going to weigh in on this project. But is there anyone on here that maybe has a counterpoint that they need to make, just so we kind of have an idea of what at least this group is thinking? All right.
Well,
Not,
I don't have a counterpoint, but I do think that getting signatures and talking to some of the people, even back into the neighborhood a little bit, because that's where you see the most resistance in other meetings when people are talking about the densities going in. Like you hear about it, people complaining over, like, say, on Tennyson or at 32nd and Lowell. That's where you're going to get your most pushback, is from those neighbors in the adjoining sort of residential areas, because they feel like it's going to push cars into their area and they won't have a parking spot in front of their house. So however you can get those.
I live a block away on Alcott, and I generally have people from Bacon who work at Bacon parking in front of my house. It doesn't bother me personally, but
That's where you historically see most resistance, is from people like in the adjoining block.
yeah.
so guys, we're going to have to move forward on this. Anthony has, committed to actually doing some of the outreach, and Anthony, you and I can connect to kind of, tag team this to give you some support. And like I said, we would certainly want to ask the entire neighborhood, and having almost a month time to put it out there, collect all the feedback and bring it back to obviously the land use committee, as well as you, Anthony. So I think unless there's any other further, really relevant comments about this project, I think that's the path forward here.
And I just want to say thank you for your time, and I really do appreciate you getting me into this meeting, Trustee, and allowing me to say a few words and share what we're doing.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much. Rod, if you can jump over to there we go. All right. What we have next is going to be the land use updates from Council District 1. And Melissa, do you need us to pull up, or do you want to just give them, if you need us to pull them up?
I'll just do this verbally today. There's
Yeah,
not
and
a
that's
lot.
fine. What I will say is that if folks go to our land, and actually, Rod, just jump there real quick so folks know where to go. Go to the public drive again, like where we were, and I can show everybody where we're housing these, and people can always find them. So look at number 3. Yep, land use. And then look at council updates, number 2. I was putting this in order so they can come up, but you notice that it's missing. Actually, I thought I put it up here.
I'll put it in there, Trupti.
And actually what I had done was put a document. Oh no, look at links. Look at links, the 3rd document. I'll relabel it so it shows up on top. If you go in here, and I'll make it nicer, but all of the newsletter archives from District 1, Amanda Sandoval, and all the land use archives are in those links. So you can find all of them instead of us housing them in a couple places. You could just go right to Amanda's website where she's archiving them. Thank you. Okay, Melissa, go ahead. We'll take the verbal.
All right. I'll be happy to post that, a link to it if anyone's interested. So there's not a lot to report on the city side. There was just a Denver Building and Fire Code adoption meeting that occurred on Tuesday. They did talk about the CPD permit review backlog a little bit recently, and they've hired some third-party reviewers, And they hope that that can help push through the residential reviews and get them more or less caught up by end of first quarter of 2023. That remains to be seen. The near Northwest area plan, we are still gathering information from people. We are encouraging people to participate. There are surveys on, there's some focus topic surveys, such as how mixed use commercial areas along 38 Federal should grow, how to preserve affordability and add housing, town centers, industrial areas, and Sunnyside, and the like. There's a mobility and quality of life survey and a land use and economy survey.
And this is actually on our agenda. We've got folks from NPI here today to talk about this. So we will be talking about that under new business.
Yeah, we are asking everyone to take those surveys. New for Sunnyside is we are in, we have released the conservation overlays. The councilwoman has been working with the neighborhood on 2 conservation overlays. So CO7 and CO8. They are intended to conserve areas that have distinct features, identity, and character. For Sunnyside, the reason there is 2, the northern section does not have a brick requirement. You know, we looked at the data on the types of housing, and there just wasn't enough brick houses or houses that had predominantly brick on them to justify requiring brick in future, scrapes and rebuilds. So then this is only for, you'll have CO8, which requires brick, and CO7, which does not. It's kind of reducing bulk and mass. This is not detailing styling, it is reducing bulk and mass. It'll have a maximum above ground square footage of 3,000 square feet, regardless of which area you live in. This will only apply to single unit and 2 unit zone districts. It'll also require a modest porch. It'll allow dormers without having to seek an exemption from the BOA. It'll limit the low slope or flat roof heights. And as I mentioned, it'll reduce the bulk plan. If you have any comments on that, the city is asking you, and we are asking you to, submit your comments, positive or negative, and I'll give a link to that in the chat on how to do that. But you can review, I'll put a link to review the text amendment, and then how to leave a comment. If you have any questions, reach out to our office.
And feel free to throw any questions specific to the overlay on the chat. We do have Brad Johnson on this call because we had started getting some emails and Facebook comments. So in case folks showed up today with very specific conservation overlay questions that Brad could answer. So he's on now if you want to throw a question in chat. Otherwise, emailing him with comments and feedback is actually exactly what is needed right now during the open comment period, which ends on November 20th, correct?
Correct.
Is that like 5 p.m., midnight? What is on the 20th?
I don't know if we said 5 p.m. would be nice. But we'll take
End of
them.
business day on the 20th.
Yeah, we'll take them either way. If you provide comments on it, they'll go into the record as we go forward, assuming everything moves forward to planning board and city council and so on. All these comments can be put in the record even after that date. It's just that when we're thinking about, because before we go to that planning board hearing, we need to resolve any potential changes to the overlay text amendments. And so that's why it's important to get the comments in the next, next 10 days, I guess, or so, up through November 20th, so that we can take them into account before we publish a draft to go to planning board with.
All right, thank you.
There is a
So-
question in chat from Flossie, and I think there's a little confusion here.
Yeah, I just responded. So Flossie, the overlay is not going to be looking at missing middle because that doesn't really change zoning. The missing middle is going to be more like, how can we build more on lots that we can't build more on now? And that's actually going to be something that is going to be addressed more so via neighborhood planning initiative. And then Melissa, correct me, but I think maybe in the future, there might be a whole entire, study and such on missing middle.
There's likely to be that, but right now we are just doing the NPI as the neighborhood planning initiative and just having these conversations on what people envision for their neighborhood for the future.
And I think there's a bit of it, if I'm not incorrect, on one of the questions on this current survey is, kind of what would people like to see about missing middle? Just upzone, all single family? Should we only look at it on transit corridors? Flossie, so I think that question, and when we get to the neighborhood planning initiative, they might be able to point us directly to that.
All right, thanks. I went to a couple of the community meetings and they had a lot about it, and it came up in the initial survey, so I was curious.
Wonderful. So I don't think we need a conservation overlay update unless someone has a specific question, since Melissa just did a great job of telling us where we are on that. And Melissa, can you please tell the group, do we have a planning board date yet?
I think we do. I just don't have that information up right now. I'm happy to find that and put that in the chat.
Okay, that sounds good. But it should be coming up. We just needed to go through the 30-day comment period first before they scheduled this. So it is coming up within, the next month and a half, I think. All right, we have no final review items, so there's nothing we're voting on. Moving forward to something that's unfinished. So we've been talking with Billy Wang on his properties for a little bit, but specifically we were looking at the properties over between 4461 and 4479. These are all IAOU2. And one of my challenges, or one of the challenges I'm having when Billy's like, hey, what makes sense here? 3, 5, 8. The problem is we're in the middle of discussing this right now in the industrial area focus group. And we had 2 meetings so far. Last one was about a month ago, and that was actually really good. We had Dawn Foods there and a few more property owners over in that area talking about, well, what makes sense? And the city presented us with like 4 options, but where we landed was we need more time, that these 4 options may not be sufficient. And there was more input from people about alternative options. So the question about where height and exactly what height, 5 or 8 or 3, where it will go when we look at the industrial area and the changes that we expect, the answer is we don't know yet. And so when Billy's asking about, well, what makes sense there, I have a hard time justifying any of it. I would say we shouldn't be rezoning this if we don't have guidance about what that whole area is going to look like. So given that, Billy also has another set of properties, and this one is at 42nd Inca. So 42nd 11, 4231, and 4295. 2 of them, the 2 on the outside, are already 8, but 4231 is still IAOU2. So the question Billy had was, well, if we don't know what to do with these other 4 properties, because we're waiting kind of for MPI, does it make sense for us to consider doing, 4231 at 8? Because it's kind of sandwiched between 2 that are already approved at 8. And would the city really be like, nope, make that 3 in between there, or would we even do that? So the question came up, like, what's the right guidance for Billy to move forward on any of these rezonings? Is it the 4 that, at 44th and Inca, or should we go after the one sandwiched in that's not rezoned at 8? That's the question, and that's the conversation that Billy wants to get input and feedback from us on. So Billy, I'm going to turn this over to you. Hopefully I prefaced that appropriately.
Thank you so much. That just saved me 10 minutes, Truthy. I do have 2 slides or 2 PDFs I'd like to share. So can I share the screen or should I send it to you or?
I think you should be able to go share screen, I think,
Okay,
but if you
hang
can't,
on.
then you'd have to send it to Rod, maybe.
Nope, hang on. Okay. So where is the first one? I thought I had it. Okay, well, here's the first one. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
We sort of overlaid, and like Trupti said, prefaced, there is 4 current plans being proposed and nothing is decided yet with the MPI group and how East Sunnyside wants to decide how to do this. I'm not, so my presentation tonight is not to make a determination on which one we choose, but if you look at all 4 plans, I'm showing on each one of those the properties that I have right now. I don't own them, the bank do. But if you look at every one of the plans, right, the options, let's just go to the first slide. This one is the 4461 to 4479. They're adjacent parcels. They're currently IA. We already know that we want to move and rezone that, whether it's 3, whether it's 5, who knows? I'm not here right now to determine that. I guess the first point I really wanted to make was we've been in rezoning for that portion, and there's been a lot of yes, there's been a lot of input from the city, from Fox Island, etc. I just want to ask, we want to move that from IA to whether it's a GRX3, whether it's a GRX5. I just want to know that we could rezone those 4 or 2 properties, which is 4 parcels, to a consistent one rezoning application, whether it's a GRX3 or GRX5.
It's
The
3
other one,
proper, oh, sorry, that's 4, sorry, that's
4
4
parcels, but
Right.
2 properties.
Okay, got it.
And they're all IA, and so the council lady Sandoval had said that that's probably more appropriate to just rezone that, but this was last year. I'm not in a rush. I just want to get SUNY and PCD and Sunnyside support and MPI support to proceed with some type of rezoning. It doesn't have to be immediate, but it's the consistency of the 4 parcels together, right? We want to change it from IA to something. If it's 3, that's great. We don't have to answer that today. But if you go further down, as Trupti preface, these other 2 green parcels, 4295 Inca and 4211 Inca, yes, I've already rezoned those. And there's a sliver right there where Trupti mentioned, it's 4231. That is right now IA. And we don't have to answer it today again, but since it's bookend by 2 CRX 8s already, I think it'd be consistent enough to just submit an application to just rezone that to CRX 8. So it's all consistent from the adjacent properties.
And Billy, just making sure that it's transparent. In reality, when you do build something there, you're going to build one large development that would encompass all 3 of those parcels. Is that correct?
That would be the goal, because that is economies of scale, and it would, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
If we were to basically parcel those 3 into 3 different buildings or 2 different buildings, I think we would lose some of the attributes that are beneficial to Sunnyside, which is affordable housing density, number of units, activating the street side, plaza, etc. So that would be the goal.
So kind of with Billy, are you kind of done as far as kind of stating kind of where we are? Are you ready to maybe open it up to see what folks are thinking about, you know, how can we support you? What makes sense, you know?
Absolutely. If there's any clarifications, I just overlaid the parcels that I'm talking about. I am very, very interested in seeing what MPI East Sunnyside plan. And yes, if there's any clarifications on where those parcels are, please ask, or let's take it to.
Yeah, let's just open it up for at least you know, a couple minutes to make sure. I know we're going to be moving fast toward the next couple of things, but anybody have any questions about, you know, kind of why we're here and why we're kind of stuck a little bit because of NPI and the various parcels? You know, does it make sense for this group to say, Billy, we think 4231 moving to 8 is probably the most no-brainer out of the whole thing, because you're already sandwiched in by 2 8s, even though I have no idea what MPI is going to do at the end. We've always heard that that part, you know, next to the along Inca was up to a certain, like 44th, I think we would have higher density and then it would start going lower. But, you know, asking Billy to wait and just hold on, you know, that's not unfair. That's unfair. So what are people thinking? I'd love to hear what other people are thinking about how you should move forward with the 5
Well,
properties has.
If I can just add real quick, I think that's a great preface to it. To make it consistent, I'm not in a hurry to rezone 4461 to 4479. I'd like to wait. However, it would be very consistent with what's already rezoned for 4231 to just consistently make it to 8. Now, if MPI comes back and the city of Denver adopts whatever they plan and it's a 12, or however they adopt it, or based off of those 4 plans or options, then it's a 12, but at least that little sliver is consistent with the 2 bookends, is sort of my thought.
Thoughts from other folks? All right, we've got 4231 going to 8 as a no-brainer from Bill. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Anyone else? Any questions? Like, does it make sense for Sunny to say to him, move forward with that one, because that seems a little bit more certain for us to support, given that's happening. Whereas on the other one, we don't know for sure how this is going to land. Or do we? Okay, Rod says agree with Bill.
Well, my other comments about the other thing is a lot of this is going to be dictated by how the NPI flushes out with whatever versions and options. And these 4 options, as far as I understand, are just suggestions that what's probably finally going to end up over here is going to be in some ways a hybrid of different ideas from a lot of these 4 areas. And just, Billy, like, it doesn't make any sense from my perspective along Inca there to go from that community center 5 to 7 stories, drop down to 3 to 4, and then go immediately back up to 8 to 12. You know, I get it. They've tied that context together there, but Inca is sort of a animal unto itself, being directly adjacent to the tracks. And, you know, so while maybe deeper into the neighborhood, it makes sense to have some separation between some of these functions. I think Inca itself identifies as sort of a contiguous row there. And so whether the NPI flushes out that that's part of the community center area or part of the higher 8 to 12 story, I would anticipate that at some point along the way, that little 3 to 4 story block that you're on probably goes away. It doesn't make any sense to drop down for 1 block there along the tracks. And that's my opinion, but it just doesn't make any sense to me, knowing that corridor pretty well.
This is because of Blueprint Denver too. So that's, and this is this NPI is an opportunity to update Blueprint Denver and change things that they might have actually just gotten wrong.
Well, and the confusion also is the Fox and 41st plan that's integrated. But I agree with you, Rod. This little section, the only 2 questions I'd like SUNY, PCD, and Sunnyside neighbors, and hopefully MPI to agree to. You don't have to agree today. This should be just an 8 right now. And if it turns out, whichever option they, 4231 that is. And if it turns out that they're gonna rezone that to a 12, then so be it, but at least those are 8s. This one, 4461 to 79, it is contiguous adjacent parcels. It's currently at IA. The only question I'm asking is, we all know we want it outside of, we want to rezone it to IA, and I'm willing to wait for MPI, and I don't even need to know if it's GRX 3 or 5 or whatever. But we just know that we want to rezone it from IA to something. Is that correct?
I think that's true. That's also gonna be something true for all of these properties. I think that's gonna be the guidance. Let's see, the few blocks, let's see, Bill. Bill, do you wanna let us know? You're writing stuff down there. Feel free to just comment, so folks are.
Yeah, I mean, following up that most recent paragraph, if there was any, of all the different options and all the different discussion at the recent meeting, if there was anything that everybody agreed on, it was that one way or another, the 2-3 blocks closest to the bridge should retain something like 8 feet, if any, or excuse me, 8 stories. If anything would change, it would likely to be to go up, not down.
I agree.
Anyone else? I mean, it's so far, I'm hearing general support on the idea that 4231 going for a rezone to 8 there makes the most sense, at least from where we are today. I have no idea what the board, the planning board is thinking, or what the city's going to tell you, but at least from where we're standing, and that's what I'm seeing in the chat. Anybody have a counterpoint or something else?
I just wanted to reiterate, well, I went over to the MPI little talk session they had at Aslan Rec Center a week and a half ago or whatever. And it was me and one other guy from down in the Potter Highlands neighborhood that showed up to talk. And this is exactly what you said, Trupti. This is a re-look at Blueprint Denver. And this is us looking at how many ever years later this is are we on the right track, and an opportunity to amend it. And as a neighborhood, I really feel this is our best chance to guide the direction of Sunnyside. And it's important that we get as many people involved here and get as much feedback about how we want to see the neighborhood look, 20 years from now. So, as many people here, it's a pretty good turnout tonight. I mean, everybody should be concerned about this that's in the neighborhood and give their input, because it's all important. Because again, this will be locked in perpetuity again, and we won't have another chance for another decade to relook at this and decide what the future of the neighborhood's like.
Right. So, but that is a good segue, because we do want to make sure we leave enough time for NPI, because I think that, that's kind of where we're going next. We just have one quick little item before. Anybody else on
Jonathan's
comments?
got his finger up.
That does not sound right. But Jonathan,
Well,
go
or
ahead.
hand, or I don't know what you had up there.
Yeah.
I was hoping it was a finger, Jonathan.
Nice, Rod, really nice.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So I see Mr. Wang's situation in
You call me
two.
Billy.
Okay, I see Billy's situation in 2 ways. One, the buildings around 4231 Inca Street are already on the properties that he doesn't own, are already upzoned. And
I
it would be,
actually, sorry, Jonathan, I do have, well, the bank owns them, but I do have those.
right. I mean, like the next block up and the next block down.
Oh, yeah, you're correct.
They're already upzoned, and I think it would be a disservice to him to suggest that he was not granted the same zoning as his neighbors.
Mhm.
And I would be supportive of him rezoning those to match each other and to match the neighbors.
4231, correct, Jonathan?
Yes, 4231.
That answers one of
And
my,
I don't know how to share screen stuff yet. So I emailed a drawing to Rod, I think,
I have to
Um,
get off of sharing screen and then you could share screen. So would you like me to get off?
No, that's okay, because I don't even know if it has to be shared, but what I emailed him is a drawing that I copied from a land use committee meeting a couple months ago, where a developer was showing us various ideas from the neighborhood. And what those ideas from the neighborhood show is the entire strip along Inca with the railroad tracks is very tall buildings. The smallest building is 8 stories. And I
Okay.
think where that piece of neighborhood is going to go. And I think that us supporting Billy upzoning these buildings fits in with that vision.
So to be clear,
I'll steal the screen here real quick from you, Billy, and I'll share that
Okay,
really quick.
hang on. How
And,
do I
hey,
get
Rod.
off of sharing screen?
And guys, I think we are going to need to move on. And what I want to say is what Oz Architecture did for us was take one of, I think this might even be a little bit, maybe one of the earlier drawings from NPI when they were plotting out the numbers, and we just had them do a little visioning process for us so that we folks can see. Now, again, the issue is this may not be where we land on NPI. That's where the challenge is. And I think in 2 months, we might have a better idea of this, and then we could start plotting it out based on more agreement we have from all of the parties about where the heights are. But if we were to say, given this, yes, that's what it looks like. But 16, how do we get to 16? Is that on the other side?
That is on Fox Island.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's the
So,
reason.
Troopy, if you don't mind, if you don't mind me just sort of summarizing for my presentation, because I don't want to lead on to this, is what I'd like to ask for support is rezoning 4231, which is already bookend at CRX8 to CRX8. And then I'll just wait for MPI or whenever it's adopted. But I just want to make sure that we all concur that 4461 and 44679, since they're all IA right now, whenever MPI comes, we'll support the rezoning.
I have a quick question. Either Billy or if this is maybe to the SUNY group. Well, does it, do your plans include affordable housing? And if we could tie that to our, agreement to help rezone, or the push from Sunnyside, if we ask for some affordable housing there.
Absolutely.
Matt, according to new NEST regulations, these are now required. And then beyond a certain amount of requirement, then they could have a height incentive for even more. But a
That's
minimum
built
level
into the
is
zoning
actually
already.
required.
Well,
For
can we ask
rezoning.
for above what's asked for, 5%?
And so let's kind of table that to real discussions about the 4231 when we get there. We need to move on to kind of our last couple of things that the NPI team has been patiently waiting because I wanted to give them the most time. I'll just the individual who started Sunnyside Main Street petition is not on here, Sam, because he does work late, because I asked him, but this now has close to 500 people who signed this petition specific to the property across from Monkey Barrel. This is at 44th and Tejon. I could tell you that the site development plan has now been completely approved through the city CPD department. So I don't think we're going to have any leverage there. But where I do think it's important is that this information and the fact that people care about this particular corridor and making sure some commercial and we have a walkable thing, it's important to the neighborhood, and that NPI needs to know this, that you've got 500 people who've shown up to sign a petition against losing commercial on a node that is actually relatively important. So we might not be able to change that property, but at least we get it into the hands of NPI about where our priorities lie. So I think that's kind of all I've got to say about that particular thing, because we don't have Sam here. And let's move immediately into neighborhood planning initiative so that they can have the rest of the 36 minutes before our meeting ends. So Sung, there you are. Sung is the project lead from CPD on the Near Northwest Area Plan.
Great. Well, thank you for having me here today. I'll go ahead and share my screen and could do a presentation and just give a quick update on the process and how to kind of still get involved in this phase. So give me 1 second. Ooh. Should be sharing now.
Yep, you're good.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. So here is the West Area Plan. So for the agenda today, I figured I just kind of briefly walk you through what is a Near Northwest Area Plan for those that do not know about this process, and kind of walk you through what we've heard so far, kind of at the start and then kind of throughout, and then what's next in this phase and beyond. So, sorry. So what is the Near Northwest Area Plan? So this is just a quick map showing which neighborhoods are included in the planning process. So it includes neighborhoods of Chaffee Park, Sunnyside, Highland, and all the way down to Jefferson Park. So just a little background on planning. So why plan? So this area plan is an opportunity to help create a shared vision that helps address the diverse needs and desires for the community. So it's really an opportunity to step back and think big picture as a community, to talk about, again, what you guys were talking about, you know, where do we want to be in the next 20 years or so, and help create a vision, but not just that, but also identify some specific strategies that will help us get us there. So it's not really talking about you know, the immediate issues of broken sidewalks, although we do hear sidewalks a lot and the need to have better sidewalk systems in the neighborhood. But it's just really an opportunity to have a long-term vision again. So the plan itself is a policy document, and it will help inform future decision-making, guiding future public and private investments in a neighborhood. And important to note, what plans don't do is it doesn't directly change regulations right away, but it does provide the policy guidance and support needed to help guide those regulations changes for the future. Same with budgets. It doesn't establish a specific budget or provide detailed engineering drawings for infrastructure. But again, you know, when those budgets become available and investments are made, it helps guide what type and where those investments should be made in the neighborhood. So just a little bit about neighborhood and small area plans, which is this Near Northwest Area Plan. It's important to note that in addition to neighborhood planning, there's another layer of planning that happens above, which is the citywide plans. So they help establish the vision and policy framework for the entirety of the city. So that includes Comprehensive Plan 2040, Blueprint Denver. So it's important that our neighborhood plans are consistent with citywide plans, but also provide more detailed and more customized recommendations for the unique issues that the neighborhoods are facing. So it's also an opportunity to address how the different topics and systems of planning relate to one another, including transportation, land use, parks, trails, all that together to help to work together to accomplish the community's vision. So just a little bit about what's in the plan. This is a general framework for these MPI plans. So it includes an introduction, again, outlining the vision of where the community wants to be 20 years from today. Planning for equity. So we think and consider strongly about how equity is accomplished in the context of these 4 neighborhoods. Then it outlines specific policies and strategies by the different topics of planning that we've identified. So that includes land use and built form, which is really covering future land uses, urban design, economy and housing, affordable housing, and how we can support small businesses, mobility, basically about transportation investments, and quality of life is a bit of our catch-all, addressing from health, parks, environmental quality, and so forth. And then the last 2 pieces are neighborhood specific sections. So recognizing that all neighborhoods aren't the same, they do have unique concerns and ideas, issues that come up. So to be able to give space and room for more tailored recommendations at that level. And then implementation, it's an opportunity to start prioritizing, what are the appropriate tools and priority recommendations that need to be advanced forward. This is just a quick timeline of where we're at. Again, I'll walk you guys through phase 1 and phase 2 in a little bit more detail, but at the start of the process, it was really an opportunity to really understand the area, the likes and dislikes, dig into the data of what makes your neighborhood. And then phase 2 was identifying some key issues and common themes that arose from what we've heard in phase 1. And right now we're kind of the latter half of phase 3, where we've developed some initial ideas and recommendations, and we're running them by the community, and also seeking kind of direction in certain topics where we need better direction, mostly around growth and development. So we're at the latter half, and the next part is releasing a draft plan, which will happen in 2023 and leading us into adoption kind of end of 2023. So what we've heard so far throughout the process in phase 1, again, the goal was to understand the community members' likes, dislikes, and ideas for the future, and start identifying those common issues. So we did quite a few things for phase 1. We had a virtual kickoff meeting and interactive online survey, but mostly we spent a lot of time just being out in the community to build relationships, to just make sure people know the planning process is happening, adding people to our email list. So we went to quite a few pop-up events and community events around town, including the Sunnyside Music Festival, quick noon basketball tournaments, just really random things that are happening in the neighborhood. In addition to that, we've done a lot of youth engagement, stakeholder meetings, and focus engagement. So just smaller groups with different type of stakeholders, like the businesses in the area. So some of the high level takeaways that we've learned from that initial phase was that we need to preserve and celebrate the history and culture of the neighborhoods, provide more active commercial uses in mixed use areas and areas where they don't exist, such as Chaffee Park. So you have your streetcar corridor and nodes where people really love the active uses there, to be able to protect those areas, but also in Chaffee Park where there aren't a lot of commercial services, to be able to create new opportunities for those, supporting neighborhood businesses and districts in the area, maintaining existing and creating more affordable housing options, but also better design outcomes, providing better and safe mobility options. I think ped and bike is really just what we've heard a lot from the community about the importance of getting around without a car, and making sure we have the infrastructure to do that. And of course, more park spaces, trees, and improved amenities in our existing parks and rec centers. So we took our existing condition analysis, which is basically just digging into the data of, what is your neighborhood today, and trying to understand what the data is telling us about the issues that exist in the neighborhood. And then we took the engagement summary. So the engagement summary is just a summary of everything we've heard from phase 1. So with those two kind of documents together, we created a more detailed issues and opportunity summary report, and that really helped us guide phase 2 conversations, which I'll just cover right now. But all these are available on our website if you guys are interested, and we typically have them in hard copies whenever we do a meeting. So phase 2 was about defining the issues and developing initial ideas and recommendations. So to gain consensus on those common goals and issues, and identifying the strategies to address them. So in phase 2, we did have a lot of virtual and in-person activities. We had topic-based and neighborhood roundtable discussions. So, we got folks together to talk specifically about affordable housing, talk specifically about how to create safer streets, more green streets, and then also had virtual roundtable discussions for neighbors just to talk about their neighborhood. And we had in-person neighborhood workshops that were kind of an in-person format of those, online surveys, and Promotora intercept surveys. So this is something new we're trying out. So in order to reach underserved populations, we've hired promotoras, which are kind of community workers to help reach underserved populations and connect them to resources. So we were able to work with CCC, Colorado Changemakers Collaborative, to work with their promotoras to do some intercept surveys. We continue to do some youth engagement with local schools in the area, our stakeholder meetings, and we also tried out some flyerings through Council District 1 to do door-to-door paper flyers to promote our events. So with all that, just through a lot of meetings and conversations, some other takeaways that we've heard from phase 2 was just offering multiple ways of preserving and celebrating culture and history. So knowing that it's not always just the physical, but programmatically, how do we do that? Addressing the wide range of concerns related to the loss of older homes, and ensuring more services and streetscape improvements are provided in mixed-use areas. So I think federal is a huge one. We've heard about just having more trees, better streetscapes, along with 38th as well, and Spear. Supporting the construction of more affordable housing. It's an issue citywide, but we've also heard in the neighborhood, while keeping residents that are at more risk to displacement in place. Focusing on small businesses as well as opportunities to attract a new workforce in the area. Again, ped and bike infrastructure just continues to come up, and making sure that they're complemented by trees and green infrastructure, understanding that water quality could be a big issue in the neighborhood. Again, improving existing park and rec center amenities, as well as adding new ones. So especially in our high growth areas, within the Northeast Sunnyside, Aslan Rec Center, seeing kind of those facilities expanded as growth occurs. Food access is something we've heard a lot, particularly within Chaffee Park. So recognizing that to address it, there needs to be a multiple ways of addressing food access. And then the last one is something we've heard a lot from our focus outreach with the promotoras, is just increasing awareness and access to health and social programs and services like job training, childcare, et cetera. So again, we have really detailed phase 1 and phase 2 engagement summaries that are all on our website if you guys are more curious to dig more beyond what's being presented here today. So just quick next few slides on what's next. Again, this phase 3 process we're in right now was all about refining recommendations. So meaning, getting feedback on some preliminary ideas that we've developed, and talking about key topics where more direction is needed from the community. So some of the activities we did so far was we did have a virtual kickoff, or not a virtual kickoff, we had a virtual community workshop. We had in-person neighborhood workshops as well. We had some office hours, and then we have an online survey that closes at the end of this month. And then we've done some pop-ups and community events, and we're continuing to identify some of those. We were just at the Honey Halloween. We're gonna do some tabling in front of the Enviados, I think next week, to just kind of be out in the community and promote our surveys. Do some more youth engagement and focus engagement as well. So I just wanted to spend the last couple slides here just talking about the survey themselves, if you guys haven't taken already or just want to know more about them as you share with your neighbors. The focus topics are, again, just different topics and ideas where we need better direction on policy as we move into the draft plan. So a lot of that is focusing on how kind of the mixed use commercial areas along Federal, 38th and Spear should grow. Again, strategies to preserve affordability in the neighborhood, but also looking at new ways to include different housing options. A town center for Chaffee Park is a transform idea that came from the community. So how do we accomplish that? The industrial area in Sunnyside that you guys were discussing, that's also part of the conversation that is also being discussed on an online survey. And then for just the land use and economies, some of the ideas that we're running by the community, again, is to how to best celebrate, preserve neighborhood history and culture, encouraging better design in residential areas, design within mixed use areas, and how do we ensure more commercial amenities and services, affordable housing and displacement, local businesses and supporting business districts and jobs. And then the last one for quality of life survey is it provides some preliminary framework for how we prioritize different modes of transportation along some of the key streets, has recommendations for enhancements to existing, but also creating new bike lane or facilities in the neighborhood, stormwater treatment, green infrastructure, again, how we invest in parks and rec centers, and how we increase access to healthy food and resources. So just that's kind of what we're covering in our surveys so far. Again, the surveys do close at the end of this month, and we're continuing to email the community members through our e-blast to remind them about the survey, and also being out in the community to just share flyers, and we have a lot of our yard signs up in the neighborhood. So that's just a quick update on MPI, and I'm happy to take any questions or feedback today.
There's a question in chat from Matt that says 44th as retail corridor is not listed on this. Now I know, Sung, I think we've talked about this at various other junctions, but if you can respond to that.
Yeah, sorry. This was just more of an overview. I think what you're speaking to is like a specific idea and strategy that was in the survey. It's definitely included part of it, and we'll continue to build on that idea and have more specific strategies and ideas on how to actually make that happen in the neighborhood as part of the draft plan. So missing in the PowerPoint, but definitely is being considered because we've heard a lot about that.
And Sung, is it possible that we extend the timeline of this survey, given like we kind of took a step back to give this more time? Is 11:30 a hard, or is that already an extension? Just wondering.
Yeah,
since
that was already an extension. We were planning to close the survey like end of October, early November. But we decided to just create a hard date around it on 11:30, and then just push more with flyers and yard signs and doing pop-ups. Because the longer we drag it out, the kind of momentum that we lose in this phase. So yeah.
Jonathan in chat asked, how many people have filled out the survey so far? And you're talking about this one, right? This specific phase one, this one.
Yeah, I think I checked yesterday. And our focus topic surveys are probably what's driving the most attention right now. And I think we've had 160 or so just engage online. And then for the other ones, it's a little bit lower. I don't know exactly how much for the draft ideas one. I think maybe 60 or 70.
So that focus topic survey, that first one, you've got 160. And this is 4 neighborhoods, or is this just from Sunnyside?
4 neighborhoods. That's correct.
Okay, that's really bad. I mean, that's all I can say is that's really bad.
Yeah,
because we had 500 people fill out a petition for one particular property. So like, there's that, and this goes back to the 11:30. But either way, like, what can we do? I know we talked about this a little bit. Well, let me go. Let's get back to the other questions in here. How many total residences are encompassed for the area? So Matt, you're talking about for the 4 neighborhoods or Sunnyside specifically? All 4 neighborhoods. So how many households, I guess? How many residences? Yep. In the 4 areas.
I would have to check our briefing book. I don't really know offhand right now, but we do have the data if you guys are curious on it.
I think it's more than 20,000.
Yeah,
because I think we're at 5,000, and something like Highlands might be more dense than we are. And I think some of those presentations, those earlier ones, like where we are and then opportunities. I think one of those earlier presentation gives you demographics, changing demographics, age groups, things like
Yeah.
that. So that will have the total number of households. I don't know at the top, but
Yeah, it's all available online. We have the briefing book, which is the data for the neighborhoods. Yeah, so it should be all available online.
I just looked it up, Troopy. Sunnyside has 16,523
residences,
households.
that doesn't sound right.
Well,
I
it's
think
from
we're closer to
like,
5.
it's from some census.
I don't know if that's a number of people versus homes, but that's 2 different questions. But either way, I think that's a good question. Matt, and I don't know if somebody can find it, but I would say that the 160 is really low for, the total number that we have. And that's, and that's why Sung is here, actually. One of the reasons is that they, took a stop and decided to start going to R&O meetings to outreach to more people.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, again, we need all the help that we can get. It's people tend to gravitate towards the immediate issues that are happening, like the petitions, and have a harder time kind of discussing long-term policy. But yeah, we're trying our best to really just hear from as many people as possible. And that's why, again, to Troopy's point, why we extended it a little bit longer. And then just trying to be more on the community and do whatever we can to really kind of spread the message and word. And I found the link to the briefing book, and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank
here.
you.
I'm still sharing, so that's why I can access the chat here.
Any more questions specific to neighborhood planning initiatives or anything specific to, the area that maybe some can, give more clarity to? We've got.
Is this only available as an online survey, or is it available as a paper survey for people who don't use the internet?
Yeah. The great question. I've had people reach out for paper surveys, and we've dropped them off at a rec center, or even dropped it off people's homes for them to fill out. So we try to be as flexible as possible, as long as we understand that's a need, and people are able to reach out. We've definitely made accommodations for that.
I mean, I assume it would be cost prohibitive to mail the survey to everyone in all 4 neighborhoods.
Right. Yeah, I think, yeah, it would be pretty costly, and just trying to understand resources. I mean, we've tried flyering neighborhoods just to get people to show up to meetings or fill out the online survey. But the door-to-door flyers haven't been as successful as we thought it would be either.
All right, looks like the total
Part of the confusion
population.
is that there's a lot of names for all of this stuff, right? It's NPI, it's the Near Northwest Survey, it's the city planning, it's Blueprint Denver, it's all these different pieces and all these different names. And for someone who's not heavily involved in the neighborhood, I think that it would very easily, because I looked at this and I was like, wait, is this survey NPI? What am I doing here? And I've been on land use committee for a while. So the messaging is confusing. And then when I did the survey myself, I found it very frustrating, because I didn't feel that the survey was asking me a lot of questions about my opinions as much as asking me to comment on options.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, we started pretty broad, and kind of we're narrowing in on some of the issues that we know tend to be more controversial, and asking options about those. But definitely, we've had opportunities to just have open-ended responses to anything we're kind of putting out there in the community. So, but point well taken. Thanks, Jonathan.
I'm adding up the number of residences in the Near Northwest. Hold on.
So
We have 13,000.
how can SUNY help more people, help get more people to, I mean, I assume this survey is the current primary driver of opinion gathering. How can our land use committee help get people to do this survey? From the city's point of view,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think word of mouth is probably the best way to get people involved, just knowing that it's coming from a neighbor. You know, I've also dropped off flyers to kind of other steering committee members or RNO members that just wanted to hand it out to their residents. So if you wanted a stack of flyers, I'm more than happy to kind of print some, drop it off for you to distribute. But yeah, I would just say, you know, if you have any emails, like I know Troop D emailed the survey to several people of our own. So if you guys are able to do similar thing like that, that would be great. I was gonna follow up after this call and just send Troop D the slides and also just the link to our surveys. So if you guys are willing to share that'd be great. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think your question's exactly the right question, and that's why the steering committee had wanted Sung to participate in this meeting. And what we're asking you, Troop D, Sung, and myself are asking you, is for all of you to help. And that means getting the word out on email. If there are community groups that you're a part of, when you're at the coffee shop, talk this up, because the comments that Rod made earlier in the meeting to me are really the crucial ones. And to remind everybody, you know, he commented on how important this planning process is, because not only is it an opportunity for us to create a vision for Sunnyside, but to the degree that that vision is established in this process, it's set. And, you know, it's going to be 15 or 20 years before you get to change some of the underlying tenets that are established in this. So it's kind of like speak now or forever hold your peace. And we're now into the second half of the process. So one thing we are hoping, both as a steering committee and the city group, is that now that as we start to come out with draft recommendations, that it's going to kind of get people more interested and more excited because they have something to react to. So please look for those things. And if you see things that are coming out on email or that are, you know, brought up in this meeting that you think will be of interest to people, you know, like the industrial area, please use that as a you know, a lever to communicate within the community.
Got a question in the chat from Matt. Are you getting good representation from large industrial property landowners? What is the approach there? Sung, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, we had a pretty good turnout in our recent meeting. I think we had about 15 to 20 people there, I would say. We've been trying to do everything from kind of relying on contacts that's been fed to us through Troop D, Bill, and others, and word of mouth. We've also done some property assessor research too, to try to find some contact information through emails and phone calls. So we were able to make contact with a handful of people. I try to encourage attendance at the meeting, but haven't heard from them. And so in addition to that, some people weren't able to make it to the meeting. So I've been trying to arrange phone calls and just be available to kind of present them similar materials and listen and capture their feedback that way. So so yeah, we've been getting I think better representation as the process goes. So that's been encouraging.
Yeah, and got to remember, a lot of these parcels in the industrial area are folks like Billy Wang and other folks who have purchased or assembling that want to rezone and develop. So some of those folks were also at the meeting, along with Dawn Foods folks showed up, and Mile High Comics was there. I think Interstate Roofing was there. A lot of the businesses in that area were also there and or are aware through just conversations that this group has with Sunny having with them in case they weren't able to make it, and keeping them in the loop about, what's going on and when decision points need to be made, that they come and participate. But it was definitely better last time than the first time. Jonathan did the math. We got 160 households. We think that's individuals, but households out of 13,314, we got 1.2% participation based on that very rough math here. Let me just, I know at least for myself, and Bill and some folks here are really close to this project, so we kind of know how many people on the call, and we do have some new folks here. Were you aware of this project before this? And have you taken the survey, or were you aware of how you could participate? Anyone for whom this was brand new, they didn't know? And this is important information because we tried to get it out. The city tries to get it out. Amanda's office tries to get it out. Okay, Brian said was not aware and have not seen any surveys. So yeah, Brian, that's a problem for us. It's a problem for us as a group. So Brian, I think one thing is we are always posting this on Sunny's Facebook. We also have a monthly newsletter that Sunnyside sends out, and anytime there's input period for whatever phase, we're making sure that happens. And then also this group, this meeting and the recordings, I would suggest kind of paying attention to those and participating here to kind of stay in the loop. I believe the schools, okay, here's would recommend using North Skinner and school newsletters. Sung, can you speak to that?
Yeah. We have several schools that we're actually able to get in contact with for the newsletter. I think North was one, and there were a handful of others that our engagement specialist was able to contact with. I don't remember them offhand, but yeah, so we were able to get through the schools, get in through the newsletter. Yeah, so that was one of the adjustments we made to kind of promote the surveys.
And Brian said if there were cards that he would love to pass them out. So Sung, do you want to, I can connect, and maybe maybe we can get this in the hands of the folks that are here, put them into coffee shops. So I don't know if we want to connect. I wasn't able to pick up a yard sign. Bill, did you pick up a yard sign for Sunny? Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anybody did. Sung, do you know? I was not able to.
We had several people from different neighborhoods, maybe 3 to 4 student care members come by and pick up yard signs, but the rest of them, we just went around and placed them around parks and where we were able to. And we also had some flyers kind of in businesses too. And then, yeah, I'm happy to drop off more to anyone that would be willing to hand them out. We have a drop off scheduled on Monday, so I'm happy to do it.
Okay, yeah, that's
not that
great.
early or sometime afterwards too.
So if I can get them Monday from you, and I mean, obviously I live in Sunnyside, if any of you guys are willing to help, I'm going to put my email in here, and of course you can just reach out via the Sunnyside emails as well, and I'll see it. But yeah, please reach out to me after Monday, and I'll have these. And if everybody could just do a block or two, that would even go a long way right now.
Yeah. Let me know if you get enough from him, Troop D. I'll just bike over and get them from you or something.
Okay. All right.
Or if you're coming over, I live 6 blocks up from Troop D. So
no, I'll pick them up, and we can get them to the folks over here. Brian, thank you very much. If you want to throw if you want to email me, so I have your contact information, and I'll reach out once I have them. I appreciate the folks willing to help us get the word out here. I think it's really important. We are just 2 minutes out. Any last thoughts, any questions from the group for Sung or for Sunnyside?
I would like us to think how we can leverage that 500 people that signed Alex's petition and get them involved if Alex could, well, I know he's not here, but maybe we can talk to him about him communicating with people because they clearly have energy and passion.
What I don't know is whether from petition.org, those things are just made available. I will tell you that on Facebook and on Nextdoor, there was a lot of chatter because those things were posted there. And in it, there were people who said, hey, hope you're paying attention to NPI because that's a bigger thing that is impacting all of us. So I think all of us should just continue to at least use those channels at the very least. But I don't know about, petition.org, whether it gives you people's
Yeah.
contact information. My sense is it probably doesn't. Anything else? All right. Not seeing anything else here. Well, thank you all very much for showing up tonight and listening. And I hope you're motivated to, participate more. And definitely, we're always looking for folks on this committee to come here and kind of be part of helping make decisions for folks like Billy Wang or Anthony Caselli, and then helping the city and things like that. So we're always looking for more folks who want to be, regular participants, as well as, just showing up to these meetings based on the agenda. So I thank you all very much, and please reach out. Brian, I've got your email. Thank you. All right, guys. Everybody have a great night. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I'll
Thanks,
be
y'all.
posting the recording to our
Good
YouTube
night.
channel. Thank you.